Fashion Insider friends, what is up? This is the Fashion Crimes podcast where I cover all things fashion, style, shopping, style inspiration, and interview incredible small business owners who are changing the fashion industry for the better. Yes, I'm the best friend you never knew you needed and the poster child for fashion over 40. And I mean, way after 40. Say it with me. Fashion and style are your friends, not your enemies. I'm Holly Cates, your favorite personal stylist, and let's keep it real, the only Holly you need to know. Turn it up, because I got a lot to say, and I am super stoked you're here. Welcome, bienvenidos, shalom, and what's happening, y'all? Earth Day and Passover were this past Monday. Well, Passover's all week, so shout out to all the Jews, woo woo, and to anyone and all who celebrate Passover. And happy Earth Day to all of the fashion besties out there. Earth Day. We made it another year. And when you think about Earth Day, what does that mean to you specifically? For me, it just means becoming more aware of my actions and what I can do to become more aware. I mean, fashionably speaking, it means buying less and recycling and reusing other things in my wardrobe. I have never, ever thrown clothes away unless they are unwearable for anyone. And if I shop, I usually try secondhand or resale first when it comes to very high-end pieces. Is it more work? Yes, but I'd rather give life to something new, if possible, new for me. Now, it's not always the case with me, but I try. And it makes me feel like I'm not contributing to the clothing waste problem we have going on in the world present day. And since the sustainability movement is usually always the topic of conversation, at least every other week in the fashion industry, is just talking about it in the news enough to make a difference in the global warming crisis. The fashion and garment industry certainly has just a huge, understatement of the year, huge, ginormous responsibility in this issue. But we as consumers, how can we take matters into our own hands and closets to set an example for our kids and our grandkids? I'm so glad you asked. Now, to set the stage for this, I want you to think of a house that's built in 1958. Today, now in 2024, 66 years later, check my math. I never said I was good at math, but 66 years later, it's being cleaned out for the first time. And not only did I assist with the clean out, the first thing that I wanted to clean out and tackle, was, of course, the closets. Now, as much as I talk about sustainability, shopping small and buying from small brands, disclaimer, this issue is so big that it almost feels too broad to zero in on the real offenders, which include but are not limited to illegal factories, unfair and unjust employee claims, and let's face it, politics and people in power that can initiate real change but choose not to due to losing said power from financial backers. But be that as it may, what's it going to take to get us, the fashion consumer, to create real change in our own closets and consume less clothing? That's what we're going to cover this week. And we're going to talk about why people let things sit around for 66 years without ever throwing anything away. The clothing, of course, is the biggest question for me. Why on the planet? Why? Why do people do this? Well, it can be several reasons why, including but not limited to, they grew up in a generation where their parents did the same thing and you just didn't give clothing away. I'm using air quotes here. And in case you knew someone who might wanted to wear it or keep it for air quotes someday. For example, if you have children and you keep their baby clothes thinking they might want them one day for their own kids, they probably won't. I know it's sentimental to you, the original owner, but you cannot count on your children to share that same sentiment. These are things taking up valuable space that can actually and will hold you back. And they usually do hold you back. So in this clean out, we found original baby clothes, of course, and outerwear, and children's books and toys that were over 50 years old. Very cool to look at, yes. But indeed, no one of this generation wanted their own baby clothes for their kids. So it sits in a drawer in hopes that one day somebody will give it a new life again. But what happens when no one wants it? It goes into the trash 66 years later when we have more waste on the planet than ever. We're going to discuss those gems I found in this closet when we come back right after this. Comparing ourselves to who we used to be is not only counterproductive, but also cruel and negative self-talk. Learning what not to do and common fashion mistakes that people make will help you dress better and more flattering for your specific body type. Not sure what your body type is? Not a problem. This book, Stop Making These Fashion Mistakes, will give you the guidelines and principles that you need to know to distinguish your body type and where you need the most support from your clothes. Stop Making These Fashion Mistakes by yours truly is still number 1 on the Amazon website right now under fashion and style. Is your image holding you back? This captivating, so captivating, and quick style guide. With this, you can instantly break the cycle of feeling like you look just okay and good enough to feeling proportionate, empowered, and self-confident. It describes in detail the top fashion and style mistakes that people make without even knowing it. While learning these short style principles, you'll soon understand why keeping your closet out of chaos, wearing the correct fitting undergarments, and dressing according to your lifestyle, age, and body type can do nothing but evolve your personal style. Getting dressed is something that should add joy and confidence to your everyday life, not bring you down. You too can have complete control over the message you're sending to the world by using style as a tool to get ahead in life. Not every day is going to be a home run. It won't, but you do have the option to opt in and dress the way that makes you feel like authentically you. This book, Stop Making These Fashion Mistakes, is the first step in your style evolution to get unstuck. I can't think of a better way to make your outside match your inside with Stop Making These Fashion Mistakes. Get your copy now on Amazon.com. Just type in Holly Katz book, that's Katz, or Stop Making These Fashion Mistakes, and it will come right up for you. It's about a 15-minute read and makes a great gift, let's be honest. Shout out to anyone who has purchased the book thus far and those who have bought copies for their friends. Loving that journey for you and your people. That makes me so happy. Also, thank you to all those who wrote in and told me they bought copies for themselves and their family members. Yes. If you don't want to take the chance of making a fashion mistake, that's why you have to get the book. It will be the best gift you can ever give yourself or perhaps someone else. Alrighty then. Full disclosure, this is a safe space, right? This house that we cleaned out was my mother-in-law's house, and her name was Elaine. She lived until she was 87 years old in the house where she raised her children. She outlived her husband and her first son. She was lucky enough to remain in her home until her last day. Cleaning out her closet was my absolute pleasure. It was so interesting to see her style evolution through the decades, and I mean a lot of decades. And I'm not saying she was into fashion or followed trends or anything like that. However, she had enough clothes for a small African village. I mean, to say she never got rid of anything in her closet is the understatement of the century. But we'll start with her mother, who worked in a glove factory when she immigrated to the United States from Luxembourg in 1940. I mean, I had never heard of this country until I started dating Jonathan. So Luxembourg is a country in northwestern Europe and is one of the smallest countries, I found out. It's bordered by Belgium on the west and north, France to the south, and Germany on the northeast and east. So thank you, Wikipedia, for that tidbit of information because I had no idea. They came over on the boat and settled in Chicago, eventually moving to Alabama. What? But okay, they moved to Alabama, and that's where Jonathan's parents, that were both professors for over 40 years, that's where they lived. Now, looking back on pictures of Elaine, she was 21 when she got married. And let me tell you, she used to be fabulous and very stylish. We have her honeymoon album where they went to Miami to the Fontainebleau, and she dressed very well back then. She was very, very tall. Like she could have been a model in today's world with those legs that would not quit. And I'm going to share some pictures in the newsletter so y'all can see how gorgeous she was at one time. Anyway, my favorite picture, of course, is her in her bathing suit at the beach. And what's so funny is that it's really not far off from a style that I have now of bathing suit that I wear. So back to her mother working in this glove factory. And why do I know this? Is because she had all of these fabulous gloves, and most of them were white leather. And let me tell you how annoying it was that I couldn't even get half of my hand into any of these gloves as hard as I tried. But people were much smaller back then, obviously, and I was super bummed that I had to let those go. Rude. Now, the next thing we found were her furs. Not only she had a few stoles, but she had the one like with the fox head, like it had a full head on it, like hard pass on that. But how funny is it that that's what people wore in high society? Okay. So here's a dead animal pelt around my shoulders. And by the way, did you see the head? It's right here. Okay, solid. Anyway, so that was fun to see and play around with, but not something we kept, obviously. So going into the 70s, we had a lot of corduroy overall dresses with turtlenecks. Yes, that was burning and hurting my eyeballs, but still very fun to look through. Then we got to the 80s. And I mean, I think we all, Elaine especially included, made some terrible, regrettable fashion choices back then. Let's be honest. But I did find a dope collection of leather slouchy boots and some fringe bags. Now, nothing I kept, but I was like, okay, this is good. Things are looking up. But believe me, that hope was very short-lived. Once we got into the 90s, I mean, it was all down here from there. Very large, shapeless floral print dresses and quite a few Beverly Goldberg sweaters. And if you don't know who Beverly Goldberg is, get out. Get out. I mean, get out. Just kidding. If you haven't watched the Goldbergs, you got a lot of homework to do. Beverly Goldberg is a Jewish mom from Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, and always wore themed, swagged out, blingy sweaters. So she had a few seasoned themed sweaters that reminded me of Beverly Goldberg, like one for fall and one for winter, but her jam, her thing was teddy bears. She loved her some teddy bears. And not only were they all over her house, but they were on her clothes as well. She collected them, I mean, all over the place. And she did have a teddy bear sweater or two. Okay, I'm not going to lie. And as she aged, so did her wardrobe. And soon she really didn't get dressed anymore. Her clothes, they really just sat there, left to die in a closet of darkness that was once vibrant and alive. Now, when Jonathan and I got married in 2013 and we started to visit Elaine, I noticed that her husband had passed away about 5 years prior, and she still had all of his clothes in the closet. Now, with a little coaxing, and I don't even remember, honestly, how I got her to say yes to this, but she let me clean out her husband's closet, making more room for her clothing. And little did I know that wouldn't even make a dent in the amount of clean out that had to be done 11 years later today. Also, little did I know that by getting rid of her husband's clothes from a long time ago, his whole life, basically, it gave her permission to use that space for more clothing for her. So then every closet became hers with all of her shoes, outerwear, clothing, and Ugg boots. She had them in every color, every style, and every length. That was the most comfortable to her when she indeed did leave the house, which was not often. But how long is too long to keep something? It's true. Styles always come back around a second time. Are you too old to wear it again? Sometimes yes. Sometimes you can pull it off. Sure. But how long is too long to keep clothing? Well, 66 years is too long. Okay. Fashion crime. That's for starters. But when we talk about closet cleanouts, I always like to encourage people to remove, recycle, and replace clothing every 5 to 7 years. Now, if you're on top of your game, you should be adding new things to your wardrobe every 4 to 6 months and taking out the old and either donating them or reselling them, not gifting it to people who did not ask for it. Just FYI. Also, just like back in episode 106, How to Clean Out Your Closet, I bring up our trusted friend and organizational expert, Marie Kondo. Now, if you haven't read the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, again, you got a lot of homework to do. Marie says, and I'm totally paraphrasing here, that you block other people's energy when you give them things that you don't want anymore unless people actually ask for it. Don't give it to them thinking that you're doing them a favor. People do not want your stuff. Now, you can certainly ask them. There's no harm in that at all, but don't make them feel obligated to take your unwanted clothing. Clothing indeed does have a shelf life when it comes to style and trends. Sure, of course, that's not a secret, but you can extend the life of most things if you learn how to rotate your wardrobe by replacing things with secondhand and gently used. I mean, I do it all the time. Or donating your items to a worthy cause. People who shop vintage and secondhand have a field day with this shit. I mean, believe me, these places, they're stocked to the brim. And it also helps those in need who really need clothing at an affordable price. So if you're a thrifter or a picker, you live for that kind of stuff. But if you don't think anybody wants your clothing because it might be outdated, once you give it to a worthy cause, people who need clothes for real will wear your stuff and buy it at a very, very low cost. In other fashion crime news, I wanted to give 2 shout outs. The first is to Home to Love. She wrote such a beautiful review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for that. So snaps to Home to Love, and please tell all your friends. That would be great. And at the end of her glowing review, she said it would be helpful to do a podcast on what to do with older styles and where to donate, sell, or trade, keeping us fashionable. Well, thank you for bringing that up. Depending on where you live, you can always donate to church thrift stores, like I said before, Goodwill, of course, and places where people shop a lot, where they need clothing that they can afford. If you don't have high-end clothing, this is the raw truth. If you don't have anything high-end or that's worth anything, you can totally just drop it off. But if you have stylish clothing or stuff that's worth money that you just don't wear it anymore and it's in good condition, you can go to any buy, sell, trade place like Buffalo Exchange or Crossroads. One is here in Atlanta. The other is in New York City, but they only take what's in. It's a much longer process, but you can get new items quickly from their inventory, and it's already curated and organized for you, which is great. So that's what people who have really good designer pieces. But consignment is also a very good choice, but you have to see what they're accepting, and it's usually pretty strict on what consignment stores will take. You can also send in your clothes to ThredUp, and that will be in the show notes. Their tagline is find it, flaunt it, set it free. And their story is great. And it basically says that thrifting can help solve the fashion waste crisis. So to learn more about how to send your clothing in and what they take, please go to their website, which is in the show notes, and go ham. I've never used them before, but looking through, they've got great stuff. Also, I need to interview them. So let's put that in the universe for me. Just did that. Also, shout out to Rachel Shazam. Rachel Shazam, snaps to Rachel, as that's her karaoke name that she said. Anyway, she wrote such a fabulous review. I was beyond thrilled and grateful. She said that she binged the podcast while she was driving, and now she's going to watch all the videos on YouTube. Snaps to Rachel. Thank you so much, Queen. And now tell all your friends. Rachel, you're the best. Thank you so much. Now that I know and I'm aware that I did give my mother-in-law, who's no longer with us, I am fully aware that I did cite her for a fashion crime. And I know this. However, I just want to say, so you don't think I'm dead inside, that I did love her very much. And we had a very nice relationship. I also want to say that she was a completely brilliant person as she had her doctorate in linguistics. I'm sorry, who does that? And was a college professor for over 40 years. And the amount of notes and papers that she wrote and things that she kept were very interesting to witness and to see. She also was a huge philanthropist, and all she wanted to do was give, 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 give. And the best part, one of her caregivers, who we still love very much, she actually never graduated from high school. And Elaine encouraged her to take the remainder of her classes, which actually wasn't very much, and tutored her, and she got her GED because of Elaine. To this day, she said that no one made her feel the way that Elaine did. No one ever told her that they believed in her or saw any potential in her, but that's what Elaine did for her. And that's what I loved about Elaine. And she was loved by so many. She always wanted people to learn and to grow, and that's what she did. And I'm truly grateful to have known her, even if it was at the end of her life. And I thank God every day for my husband, Jonathan, who was her youngest and her greatest accomplishment, according to me. Seeing the house empty and dusty with her original kitchen. I mean, y'all, the kitchen was the original kitchen, not the original floor, but the original kitchen. Turquoise blue countertops with the gold flecks. Okay, like that's how OG her kitchen was. Her screened-in porch where she would sit until she really couldn't get down the stairs anymore. And her gargantuan yard where she did not talk to her kids for 2 weeks because she was so mad because Jonathan said some trees had to come down and we had to hire someone to take them down. And she didn't speak to Jonathan for 2 weeks. Anyway, she got over it, but their house sits on a lake where her house backed up to. And honestly, I just sat out there and I stared at the lake, and I really understood why she never wanted to give up that house. And I only hope that the new owners will breathe a new life into it and make it hustle and bustle again. But to me, it's always going to be Baba's house. And that's what her kids called her, was Baba. She died on Halloween, actually, of last year, 2023. But cleaning out her house, it was a pain in the ass. Okay. It was a lot. Several dumpsters later, but seeing it empty, it just gives you hope that someone really nice is, and I'm laughing and crying at the same time, is going to buy it, and there'll be kids running around in the yard. That's what we hope. So she's got great neighbors, and we promised them that we would give them some great neighbors, and that house is going to go quick. It's going to go quick. It is a chapter ended, and may her memory be a blessing. It certainly was to us. So thank you so much for listening this week. I truly hope that you will engage with us on social media and tell all your friends that this is the only fashion podcast that they will ever need in their lives. Did you know that you can still get a free wardrobe checklist if you sign up for our newsletter? If you haven't already, all you have to do is go to Fashion Crimes Podcast. The pop-up box will come up. Put your email in the pop-up box. You're going to get a free wardrobe checklist. Who doesn't want that? Anyway, I'm the hostess with the mostest and the only Holly you need to know. Tune in next week as we have some fabulous interviews coming up that you're not going to want to miss. We have the Met Gala. We have the Kentucky Derby. That's exciting. But for now, y'all have a fabulous fashionable week, and let me know what you want to hear. My name is Holly Katz, your favorite personal stylist, as always. And if you see any fashion crimes out there in the field, you are supposed to report them to me and let me know so I can give you a shout out on air. Anyway, that was just a short reminder. Thank you for all who wrote in, and we'll see you next week. Bye.